Hi everyone! Today I'm sharing with you a rose painting that I started in the summer of 2013. So I barely started it, as you can tell. The outline was down, I started painted a couple petals, and then I was interrupted and I never finished it. So I was in my mother's garden, and she's got all those rose bushes, and I took a lot of pictures of them because they're really beautiful, and the light was shining just so that the colors were really nice. So yeah, I did take a lot of pictures, and I had started painting one of them, but I don't know, I never found the inspiration to finish it until a few days ago. And really, it was not about the urge to finish this painting. It's just that this Arche watercolor block that I had started, it's the first page of it. I never got to use it because I didn't want to get rid of the first page, because I thought that one day I will finish this painting. So I didn't want to unglue the edges. But a few days ago I thought, oh geez, I wish I could use this watercolor block, because Arche is a really good paper and I really like using it, but I can't. So I took my watercolors out and my brushes, and I sat down and I worked at it. Luckily, I keep my photos very well organized, and it was pretty easy to find the reference picture that I took in 2013. But then I realized that when I had started that painting, I probably didn't have any particular plans in mind, because the photo doesn't really have a nice background, and all I had on the paper was the outline of just a rose. No stem, no leaves, and no background, so I really didn't know what I was going to do. So while I'm still not very comfortable using watercolors, I don't mind just painting flowers, because I've painted quite a few of them, and I'm getting more familiar with just painting all the shapes of the petals, and it's not as daunting. But as the flower was getting more and more defined, I was starting to stress out about the background. I just don't like painting backgrounds, and in this case, the reference picture was useless. So I had something in mind, but it's something that I've tried to do before and it never works. But I didn't have a choice, and I thought, you know, there's no need to stress about it. I seem to be getting better at mixing my colors, having the right consistency. I think that because for a couple years I've been trying all sorts of different media and trying to make them work, even though I was not comfortable using them because I was not familiar with them. I think it's pushed me to just give it a shot no matter what and not take it seriously. And I really think that it's helped me improve my techniques, whatever the technique is, I guess. I'm not sure how to explain that, but I think it's just made me more confident. So for the background of this rose, I wanted to have some blurry colors because I didn't know what else to paint. And I started with a wet on wet technique and put in a lot of different colors. And I was not very thrilled with the result as it dried, but I had remembered watching a video where somebody had used some kind of yellowish greenish light wash and put it all over the background, and it really popped all the colors and it looked really good. So I tried that and I thought that was terrible. I didn't do it well. I don't know what colors they used, but not what I used. So I kind of blotted that a little bit, but I thought it started looking pretty good with the paper towels that I was using. But the second problem I encountered is that I had a floating rose. I didn't have a stem or leaves, and I had to just like invent them. So I just went ahead and tried to lift some paint to show the stem and some leaves, a little bit random. I was not quite sure what I was doing. And also I thought, well, I knew the rose wasn't done yet. I was not done with all the different contrasts, but it still looked like it was blending too much into the background. So I knew I had to darken that background. And this time I added colors wet on dry. So the colors ended up drying much brighter. I put some darker greens on the edges of the flower to really make it pop, and it worked really well. So I was relieved by then. So I knew I had to get back to the flower and add some shadows, deeper shadows, so that I could have more contrast and make the flower more 3D looking. But at one point I thought, I'm never gonna get it to a point I like. And so I just stopped, and I told myself, I'll probably continue as far as I can go, but if I mess it up, I mess it up, and it's no big deal. I can just throw it away. I don't need to share my video with anybody. I don't need to show the picture to anyone. It's just practice, I guess. It's no big deal. Yes, I have spent hours working on it, but if in the end it doesn't look good, it doesn't look good, and that's okay. So I put it aside, I let it dry, and the following day when I looked at it, I started liking it a bit more. I could see that the background, the darker background, had helped making that flower pop a bit more. And I knew that just continuing with the shadows and maybe adding some brighter colors would make it look better. So I worked a few more hours on it, and in the end, I really liked it. I wasn't really sure what to do with the stem and the leaves. I wanted them to stand out a little bit, but not too much, because I didn't want them to take over the flower itself. And so I did a lot of scraping and darker colors and yellows. And in the end, I guess it was okay, considering I had scraped the color off to start with. Now for the rose, something that really helped me was the fact that first, the arch paper is so resilient and it can't really take a beating. I use a harder bristle brush, not too hard though, but hard enough that when wet I was able to lift a lot of the colors and bring back some of the highlights. And against the darker shadows, it really gave all the shapes of the petals and all the different dimensions, and I think it brought it to life. And I think if I had done that with a different paper, it might have just ruined the paper itself. With the arch paper, it didn't budge, it didn't damage anything, and I was so happy. Also, with the amount of water that I used for the background, I was so pleased to see that the paper really stayed attached to the block, and there's not even one corner that got unglued. You can tell when I started wetting the paper that it was getting a little bit wavy, but it dried really flat, and I haven't unglued the piece from the block yet, but it looks really flat right now. So I'm really amazed, because when I use arch paper, like just a sheet that I taped down to a board, a drawing board, it still has a little waviness to it. You can still see that the water has been used. But right now I really can't with this one, so I'm really glad that I started working on this block, and now I've got 19 more pages that I can use. And to think that I wasted 5 years, how silly of me. I think that the idea of waiting for inspiration or the muse or whatever, it's kind of silly. Because in this case, for instance, I really pushed myself. I didn't want to paint this flower, but I didn't want to waste this paper. I wanted to just try it, give it a shot. And it was just, you know, working like, well, I don't feel like doing the dishes today. Well, I'm going to do the dishes anyway. And that's what I did with this flower. And I'm so happy. To me, I can see some growth, because I don't think I was ever that confident with watercolors before, or that I had ever achieved this result, especially for the background. So I'm really happy, and it really boosts my confidence too on top of it. So I want to do more now. I want to do more roses and backgrounds. I'm probably going to wait a little bit, but I think by looking at this painting, I'll know that it's possible that I can do it. And also the fact that I didn't put any pressure on myself, that if I mess it up, it's only a piece of paper. Even if I put quite a few hours on it, it's okay, because it's only practice and it can only be positive in the end. So I think that's important, not to be too attached to the work that you're doing. Just take it as practice. Even if you don't make a beautiful piece of art in the end, you'll probably be surprised anyway. And it's also a good idea not to give up halfway. Just push yourself, because there's always an ugly stage, And sometimes if you spend a little bit more time on your painting or your drawing and add more details and try to add more contrast, it's going to bring your painting or your drawing to life, and suddenly it's going to look so much better. So push it. Not too much though, don't overwork it, but push it and you'll be happily surprised. Alright, that's enough for today because I'm running out of time. And now that I'm happy that I finally finished this painting that I started 5 years ago, I realized that I have a pile of other paintings that are still unfinished, and I should probably work on them eventually. So this is going to be on my to-do list, hopefully pretty soon. I hope that you all enjoyed this video, and thank you all for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.